Hey, what's going on YouTube? Back with another podcast type project, and today we're going to be working with a podcast client, Darby Zurbinski. She has a podcast called Spilling the Tea with Darby. It's all about real estate, working in the field, fun, cool stories, and she's just getting started. So I'm going to show you just kind of like a rough mix that I would do and how I would go about editing this podcast. I know I have a couple other videos on editing podcasts, so today I figured I'd just go through it real quick and show you guys how quickly I'm going to go through it pretty much. So here's, and this one's very simple. There's 3 different podcasts in one project here. The blue ones are all separate. Did I say 3? There's 4. So the blue ones are separate. They are just her talking. It's one microphone, makes it really easy, so I don't have to worry about other microphones picking up any reflections or anything like that. The bottom one is 2 people conversing, so that one's going to be a little bit tougher. Today we're just going to worry about this single microphone. So if you guys are doing a podcast just by yourself, this is how I would go about mixing it. And I'm going to go over the single track stuff and then the mastering too. I'm going to do it as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So let's take a listen.
Back in 2008, I thought about doing real estate and selling real estate. I had been working at a marketing agency, and this was coming out of like the deep risk.
All right, cool. So our gain staging is good. I want to make it really simple. I'm going to use just a mix rack that has every tool that I need in it: the EQ, the compression, my level setting, gates, saturation, whatever I need, gain. You name it. I'm going to use a rack plugin that has all of that in it. So that's kind of what I would suggest doing. Instead of, you can go separate EQs, separate compression, whatever you guys want to do. PreSonus actually has some really good stock plugins for that. I think it's called a Fat Channel. Here it is right here. Boom. So you have a gate, you have a compressor, you have an EQ, and I think you can expand it to see all of them. Here it is. See all of them at the same time. Really cool stuff. They have some default settings, so you can go to vocal. There's podcast setting. I think I saved that. Speech, male, female. So you can do stuff like that. If you're mixing and mastering, you put this on a master bus. You can use this for your podcast. Just put this on the master bus and call it good. But I'm going to do each track individually and then master it for whatever streaming platform I'm going to use it for. It's that simple. So instead of using that, I'm going to use one that I prefer a little bit more from the Slate Digital products. And I'm going to go right into the virtual mix rack. I love that one. It's my favorite one. All right, so inside, just stock pops up with this. I love using the distressor on vocals. Here's the trimmer. It's pretty much just a gain. You can invert phase. It's a utility tool. Don't need it. You can use it if you want. This is an EQ. And then I also have a preamp to throw some drive and some console emulated or outboard gear analog emulated saturation and warmth into it. You can use a plugin like this. This is the virtual channel. These are all pretty much emulations of 500 series units, and they work really well and they sound awesome, so that's why I use them. So I can actually leave this on here if I wanted to, and I might even do that. You could also go in here. There's also presets: vocals, warm vocals, pop vocals, old radio vocal. There's a lot of cool stuff that you guys can do. It's so simple to use. So starting from the top, we'll bring our level up. We'll add a little bit of drive to it just so that it sounds clearer, warmer, and just more pleasing to the ear.
Realty with Darby. I am so excited to talk about real estate today and be in the studio. This is my first time in a professional studio, so I'm super
good. Like it there. Don't need to put a crazy amount of drive. If I did, you might hear it, especially if I crank the input and crank the drive, you'd hear it. There's also a noise reduction button. Love that feature.
All right. Hello and welcome to Spilling the Realty with Darby.
So there you can hear what it's doing if I crank it up, but I'm just going to pull it back a little bit. So you need a little bit of that to add a little bit of cohesiveness sometimes. Just natural saturation, cohesiveness. It's not necessary, but I'm going to throw it in just for fun.
I am so excited to talk about real estate today and be in the studio. This is my first time in a professional studio, so I'm super excited about that. I like the vibe. I like the surroundings. It gets me in the mood. And today's episode...
All right, cool. I just want to peek around that red spot. If it goes too far, you're going to hear that distortion. You can play around with the EQ a little bit. If something's poking out, you can pull it back. If you want to brighten it up, you can brighten it up. If you want to darken it, you can darken it. There's a low pass filter. A lot of different options. So let's tweak it a little bit.
So I thought that I would talk about my story and how I got in. So I'm just going to tell you. So it was back in 2009. Well, 2000. I thought about doing real estate and selling. I had been working at a market, and this was coming out of like...
Another thing I forgot to mention is the gate. I'm going to go ahead and put on a classic gate, put it into the vocal setting.
Like the deep recession. So this marketing agency wanted me to come on to build the business, and it just didn't build quick enough. So
They also have settings on all of these, so you can let's go to lead vocal. Okay, I like that.
it gets me in the mood, and all of a sudden I get laid off. So I'm engaged, and I'm probably about 4 months away from
That's good. Okay, we're gonna go right into the compressor setting. Now, you should go with the opto setting and then tweak it.
from the wedding. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to take this time and I'm going to concentrate on the wedding. I'm just going to, collect that unemployment.
I need to go a little bit slower on the attack. It's all the way. This one's backwards, so if you put it on 10, it's the slowest. The quicker it is, the quicker it engages. The slower it is, the more transients it lets through, and the slower it engages. So I actually want this one to hit a little bit faster, so I'm going to pull this down.
Concentrate on the wedding, and then I'll figure things out afterwards. So that's what I planned on doing. Beautiful wedding. It was just a quaint little thing,
And then the release set to like a really quick release. So let's go immediately. I want it to hold for a little bit, so I'm going to put this up to 5. Those are your best settings if you just go 12 o'clock on all of them. So right in between. If it's 0 through 10, it's going to be on 5.
Oh, only close family and friends. Very nice. So then wedding's over, and we decided that we weren't going to do our honeymoon until about a month after our wedding. So we had this little break between that time, and we're sitting on the front porch probably 3 weeks after our wedding, my husband and I, and he got laid off from his job. So we're both laid off. We have no job going.
Sounds great. If I didn't have these on, this is our original sound.
Into our honeymoon. So I'm freaking out.
Here's after.
And crying and bawling my eyes out on the front porch.
Cool. Let's check our overall gain. I'm probably going to want that to be peaking around -6. So that's why we have that trimming tool.
Jared doesn't seem to be too nervous about it because he's in the IT field. So
It's fine. It's good. I like it. So I'm going to keep that there. On this main bus here, I'm actually going to add, I could put a limiter on this too, just in case it peaks above -6. I want to hold it down. So I'm just going to use a kilohertz limiter to do that. I'm not going to push it or anything. I'm just going to bring this down to -6. See if it even hits it. Probably won't.
Had already, before we left for, Mexico, he had probably 3 or 4 interviews lined up. So he said, he's good. We're fine. We'll figure your stuff out. Let's just go enjoy our honeymoon. So what I was most nervous about was...
That's fine. That's good there. All right, I'm going to add a little bit of saturation, make it sound a little bit warmer, a little bit smoother, pleasing, cohesive, you name it.
Well, now we have no money to do any excursions.
Sounds great. I just noticed a difference right away.
This isn't really going to be a fun honeymoon. What am I going to do? How are we going to have fun on this honeymoon whenever we have no jobs? So we're not going to spend all this money, on our honeymoon. And Jared, and he's like, don't worry about it. And shockingly enough,
you actually get a little bit more low end, bottom end out of the FG456. If you throw that on there, you can turn your noise down too. This just pushes the bass a little bit more, the bass alignment. And then I have this on auto mute so that when no sound's coming out of the track, you don't hear that hiss from the noise. But that does help with cohesiveness too, especially if you're doing a main mix. So check out those settings. It's nice to throw a little tape saturation on your stuff to kind of smooth it over a little bit. It's easier to mix too.
We did, all the excursions that we...
Cool. And then from here, I love using this new plugin. Slate just came out with one of their new mastering plugins, FGX2. You can use this as a final mastering limiter if you wanted to. I'm just going to use it to kind of push some things, add a little bit more drive, a little low punch, a little detail, and we'll play with this. And then a little bit of bus compression on here, around 2-to-1 ratio. Let's check it out.
Came back. He gets a job that now he's been at the company for 13 years.
It's going to take off 1 or 2 dB of reduction. That's it. You can push the transients if you want it to sound more exciting. If it's too much, you can smooth the transients going left on that.
So that worked out really well. And actually, he's doing really well now after 13 years in this company.
I'll leave mine right there in the center. We'll go with the clear setting. And then we'll add a little bit of low punch, a little bit of detail.
This company is very good to him. So it's kind of like a blessing in disguise. So I think about when I sat on the front porch of our house, crying and bawling my eyes out and freaking out.
Cool. I do need a de-esser, so I'm going to add 2 different types. I'm going to add a resonance suppressor, but before that, I'm going to go with the Eosis de-esser. I'm just going to go with the female voiceover. Let's just go with this one. I don't want to brighten it, but I do want to get rid of some of this area right here.
There's a reason for everything, and you just need God to, guide you down that path, and it all works out in the end. And lo and behold, it did. So he gets his job. I'm still trying to figure out life. What do I want to be when I grow up, sort of thing. And
Definitely helps a little bit. And then I'm going to add the OEX Sound Soothe 2. Great plugin. You guys should definitely be looking into this. So the frequency that you choose is the amount of that frequency that's going to be suppressed. It's a resonance suppressor, so anything that's out of hand, anything that's resonating more than it should be, this kind of acts as like a dynamic EQ, only it uses a type of saturation to smooth that frequency. So you still hear it, it's just not super harsh. It's one of the best plugins I've used. It's awesome. You have depth control, soft, hard, sharpness, selectivity, your release, your attack, just like a compressor. It works great.
I decided I'll give the real estate thing a try, and he said, give it a try. And then if it works out great, what's the worst thing that could happen? You just get a job, like a 9-to-5er. So I'm collecting my unemployment, going to real estate school.
Sounds great. And very last, you do need a mastering limiter. Like I said, you could use the Slate Digital FGX2. In this case, I'm going to use the TC Electronic brick wall limiter. It's very simple. Since this is probably going on Spotify, we may have a couple different versions, but I'm going to master this one for Spotify. What I do is go into the, let's see, for loudness for YouTube, you go -16, and some other platforms. I'm going to go with master. Where's my Spotify? Here's Apple Podcasts, -16. Spotify, -14. LUFS. You can add soft clipping if you want. I'm going to leave that off for now. I'm going to hit play.
Pass the test.
I'm going to set the gain and then reset it for this setting.
Dive into it. I have a friend who kind of guided me, and then she goes to Keller Williams. So I started out with Keller Williams, and they had the best split at that time. So, and it was a good fit. And then I left there and went to Coldwell Banker. But
that's right around, see about 14 negative value, which is really good range. That's kind of where I want it. And that's pretty much it as far as editing and mixing your podcast. So that was the quickest I could go through it. I may go back and do some changes, but that's about it. All you got to do is set your ins and outs. Another thing I like to do on my ins and outs is automate the level. So if this is where it comes in, then I would set it like this. Actually, I'll go a little bit quicker. I'd bring them up there, starts.
Hello and welcome to Spilling the Realty with Jar.
So this I would automate too. I would actually, it's really loud, so I would automate that a little bit. You can also do the in-clip gain. If you're familiar with Studio One, you could always cut it up and do something like this. You can go like that. In this case, I'm not going to do that. I am going to automate the volume.
Hello and welcome to Spilling the
It's not perfect, but you guys get the point. I do the same thing over here. When she finishes that, automate it down, and I put my endpoint right there. Always give it a little bit of space.
And I want you to have fun. That's the point of this.
Put in a little bit, make that a little bit quicker.
The point of this.
That's it. If that helps out, give this video a like. Appreciate you guys watching. And once again, I always include links to all the plugins that I use in the description. If you have any comments or questions or better methods or different things you guys want me to go over, let me know in the comment section. I'll be sure to do that. Thanks for watching.